Hello there, my name is Will and welcome along to What's That Groove, where I break down and teach you some of my favourite drum beats from some of my favourite artists. Today, we're taking a look at the new single Shame Shame by the Foo Fighters. Finally, some good news in 2020. The Foo Fighters are back and they've got a new single, Shame Shame, which is pretty different to what we're used to hearing from the Foo Fighters and actually really different to what we're used to hearing from Taylor Hawkins on the drums. I mean, there are no drum fills in this new Foo Fighters song. No drum fills in the Foo Fighters song. What's going on? But what we do have is a really cool looped groove with layers of snaps and claps and other pieces of percussion in there, which do make it quite tricky to kind of work out what bits you should play on the drums when you're playing along, what bits are Taylor, which bits are the layered percussion, and we're going to be getting into that as the lesson continues. But to begin with, let's break down how you would first start about learning to play this drum beat. So I think the easiest way to approach learning this drum beat is to feel it as a 2-bar phrase, and you're going to be counting in 1/8 notes, which are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And you're going to use that counting to play the hi-hat with the right hand. Every time that you count 1, you're going to play the bass drum at the same time. And every time you count 3, you're going to hit the snare drum with the left hand at the same time. Now this is quite different to how you might feel a classic rock beat. Usually we'd hit the snare on 2 and 4. We're not doing that here. We're putting the bass drum on 1 and the snare on 3, which creates a half-time feel to the groove. Should sound something to begin with like this. Once you're comfortable with that, we can go about adding in more bass drums. So when you're comfortable playing that half-time feel, we're going to take our 2-bar phrase and we're going to split it in 2. And we're going to look at each bar separately. So looking at bar 1, first of all, we're going to add another bass drum. So now we have a bass drum landing on 1, but we also are going to put a bass drum on 2. So now our 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and becomes bass and snare and 4 and. Should sound something like this. As well as the bass drum, we're also adding in an open hi-hat as well. So when we hit that bass drum on 1 and when we hit that bass drum on 2, we need to open and release our left foot to open the hi-hat. However, we need to close it on the and of 1 and the and of 2. So if you haven't tried something like this before, it could be a little bit tricky. So maybe just listen to that isolated for a moment and get used to that first. So we're opening on 1, closing on the and of 1. Opening on 2, closing on the and of 2. And then with the rest of the bar, it would sound like this. Once we have that groove down, we can just put that on the shelf there. You stay there, we'll back for you in a minute. And we can look at the second bar, which doesn't have any open hi-hats, but it does have 3 bass drums, and they all happen one after the other. So we're playing a bass drum on 1, we're playing a bass drum on the and of 1, and we're playing a bass drum on 2. So effectively we have bass, bass, bass. 3 basses in a row. And then we're just playing the rest of the bar like we did before. So we have bass, 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 and snare, and 4 and. Bass, 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 and snare, and 4 and. Once you've got that down, return to the shelf, grab the first bar and play them side by side. Should sound something, nice and slowly, like this. And now up to the speed of the song. Lovely. So the groove we have at the moment, I think, is pretty representative of how Taylor Hawkins played the song live with the Foo Fighters when they performed recently on SNL. However, as you can hear in the track, we've got a lot of other layers going on, and there's a constant tick-a-tacker of 16th notes, which we're going to see if we can now add into this groove in the form of ghost notes. Now, ghost notes are notes that we play really, really quietly, kind of like the way you whisper on the drums. They're there, but they're not there. Kind of, hence, well, they're like a ghost. So what we're going to be playing with our left hand, we're actually going to be bringing in single strokes into this groove. And effectively, our right hand doesn't do anything different, and neither does our right foot. But the left hand is going to try and fit and fall in between each of our right hands. So essentially what we're trying to create is kind of a background buzz of something like this. However, we still have that big old Taylor Hawkins backbeat landing on 3, which means it's going to be quite difficult to continue playing those single strokes the whole time. So there are a number of different ways in which you can approach this. The first one is to play something like this. Instead of playing 16th notes of 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, we're going to break up that rhythm slightly to fit in our backbeat. And so we're going to play up to the and of 2, so 1 E and a 2 E and then play our big old backbeat together with the right hand on 3, and then carry on from the and of 3 to the end of the bar. So and a 4 E and a. So all together you get 1 E and a 2 E and 3 and a 4 E and a. And a bit faster. We then bring in our bass drums and our open hi-hats just like we did before, all landing in the same space, and you just have to try not to let your left hand distract you too much. And a bit faster. Perhaps if you're looking to challenge yourself a bit further, why not add in another bass drum? So we're going to put another kick drum now in on the of 2. So normally where we'd be stopping 1 E and a 2 E and, before our big backbeat we play together both at the same time on 3, we're going to put a kick drum in there. So we'd have 1 E and a 2 E and kick 3. So just the hands and the extra bass drum. And then we are going to do that on both bars. So with the other bass drums in there as well, and the open hi-hat. And a bit faster. Alternatively, an easier way to perhaps to play this groove is to play constant 16th notes. And instead of playing the backbeat together with both of your hands, you could bring the right hand down to accent on the snare instead. So with single strokes, it would sound something like this. Then with you adding the bass drums and the open hi-hats, you get this. Do really take your time when you're adding in those ghost notes. If you've not tried it before, it's a lot harder than it looks, and you might have to really slow the groove down to get used to the left hand landing in between the right, particularly with everything that's going on with the open hi-hat and the kick drums as well. Also, when you're listening to the song, be careful not to be distracted by the claps and snaps that you can hear in the background. They create a nice atmosphere, but they can also be a bit confusing to your ears. As I said, this is a half-time feel groove that we have here, but we're really accustomed to hearing our classic rock beat of beats on 1, 2, 3 and 4. And in particular, in this song, there's a really loud clap that lands on 4. Almost sounds like an echo from the snare, and that can be kind of distracting with whether you're in the right place in the groove. So just look out for that and be careful. If you want a bit of a challenge, you could actually even try and see if you could play that clap as well. I know, I'm just adding some more things at the end, but if you're someone that has a stacker, or perhaps I've got a clap stack here from Istanbul, you could try and see if you could hit that on the 4th beat of the bar. Just an idea. There are multiple ways in which you can play this drum beat, and hopefully from watching this video today, you've got a better understanding about how the groove works, and I hope you can now play the drum beat along with the song. If you can do that and you've enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more drum lessons just like this one. In fact, if you want to, I'd love to hear what grooves you'd like to see me break down and teach you by leaving them in the comments. So comment below, let me know what would you like to learn on the drums, what grooves would you like me to break down. Until then, my name is Will, and I will see you again soon.